Can you run your Kamado Joe on pellets? Let's find out. Okay, the much anticipated Pellet Joe has started showing up at retailers across the country. And while I don't have an early unit to share a review on with you today, it did get me wondering, could I actually turn my Kamado Joe into a pellet fired grill? And so if I look at the promotional video for the Pellet Joe, it's got a couple of things. Obviously, our favorite Kamado shape, so we've got a couple of those that we can use. It's using pellets for fuel, which I just so happen to have. I use these for cold smoking regularly. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see a video on cold smoking. You do a lot of fun things with that. And then we also need some forced air to help stoke the fire and control temperatures. And I happen to have the Kamado Joe iKamand, which I think will serve that purpose. So I think close enough. We've got everything that we need to go ahead and give this a try, with a couple of obstacles that we need to overcome. Primarily, how are we going to hold the pellets in the grate without them all falling to the bottom? So let's move the camera a little bit closer. I'll walk you through the game plan. And what we're going to try and do is see if we can get the Kamado Joe using iKamand to hold a low and slow temperature, maybe something like 225 degrees. And if that works, maybe see if we can get higher temperatures, maybe something like 400 degrees. And so if this plan works, don't know, let me know at the end of the video in the comments if we should go ahead and actually try and cook something with our wood-fired pellets. Let's get started. Okay, so I think the first challenge that we have to overcome is how are we going to not have all of our pellets, I'll just grab a few here, just fall right through the grate. So we got a couple options. We could try putting some tin foil on our charcoal basket and poking some holes through there and see if that would allow some air, but I'm worried that won't allow enough air. In particular, when the pellets start to ash up, I'm worried that that'll block the airflow. So that might be a little too restrictive. Plus, I'm not sure, we might maybe melt the tin foil. I don't want that sticking to our basket. So plan or idea number two, how we're gonna do this is to borrow our Joe Jr. basket, because I have a kick-ash basket for the Joe Jr., and see if we place it with a crosshatch on the grates on the bottom of the classic basket, if that'll hold our pellets. And if not, I have the stock cast iron grate from the Joe Jr., which I think will give enough surface area to hold our pellets and allow us to build a fire. Let's try that. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the basket from the Joe Jr. and put that on a bit of a crosshatch and see if we can hold some pellets. Just drop a few in here. Yep, none of them stuck. They all went straight to the bottom. Okay, first plan not so much ago. Let's go ahead and try our grate. And I think we'll definitely lose some, but I'm hoping this will catch a decent enough amount. Let's go ahead and add that to the bottom. Dump in some pellets. Well, that's not so bad. I think that's holding some pellets. Okay, so far from perfect, because we definitely lost some pellets around the sides, but you know what? It did build a base, and I think we've got more than enough fuel to give this a good old try. So now we're gonna try and get our fire going. So I'm gonna use some Kamado Joe fire starters, let those burn, and we'll install the iKamand and see if that can give us enough forced air. I don't know how many pounds that is, but I read in the specs that the Kamado Joe Pellet Joe will hold, I think it's about 4 kilograms of pellets, and that'll run it at low and slow temperatures for something like 15 hours was the quote that I saw. So that might not look like too much, but I actually think this would be a day's worth of a smoke. So in theory, that's what we're gonna test. So let's go ahead and get our fire started and see if we can build some heat using just pellets. Okay, so I don't want to push all of the pellets out, so the plan is just to nestle in a fire starter there, maybe a fire starter here. So we have a concentrated burn going down the center. Go ahead and get my torch, fire this up. Okay, so far so good. Let's go ahead and install our iKamand. I'm just going to add the pit probe, so we have that ready to go. Slide this, oops, forgot my iKamand door. into position. Go. Definitely lots of smoke. Let's go ahead and install our slow roller. I recently did a video reviewing the slow roller. I'll put a link down below if you want to check that out, if that's a new term. But I think it'll be easy to remove the top if I need to get at that and add any more pellets. As well, I just want to see if the smoke looks different and we can actually see the pattern of the slow roller once we have our iKamand going. So that's the idea anyways. Let's go ahead and add our base at the top. Oh, that's cool. You can see it pushing that smoke out, circular pattern. And I'm gonna just use one of the cooking grates to install our probe. That's a lot of smoke. All right, and let's add a cooking grid that we can put our probe on, and then we'll fire it up. Man, keep this fire going. So this experiment might have started better than I imagined, but we are definitely running into some headwinds right now. And so after giving it some time with the iKamand running at full blast, I've tried the vent closed, too much smoke to get any combustion. Even with the dome wide open, we seem to be not able to get any clean ignition. There's just too much smoldering smoke, speaking of, which is extinguishing our fire. So I think we need to go ahead and modify our plan where the fire on top with all the pellets surrounding it, I don't think is getting enough air and it's smoking too much. So maybe we're gonna reduce the amount of fuel that we have and see with smaller amount of pellets if we can get some clean ignition and actually build some heat. But right now, attempt number one, fail, didn't work. Let's try it. Okay, let's go ahead and get to our fire here so we can see what exactly is going on. So we have a smoldering pile, but no clean burn. So I'm gonna see if we can make a little bit of an indent down the middle here and maybe get a little bit of a self-feeding chamber. We don't have a pellet hopper that is helping feed a small amount of pellets down towards the burn pot where we can get some clean combustion. As I breathe in as I breathe in all the smoke. So let's go ahead and just make a little space here. And to help it out, what I'm going to do is see if we can get some clean burning fire near the bottom here. I'm just going to close the dome and see if we can actually keep this fire going. Okay, so it's been a couple minutes and we've actually gained some temperature in the dome. We're just about 260 degrees. I think the problem before is that I closed the dome, didn't have the iKamand on, and potentially extinguished the open burn that we had going. So now that I've got a flame going, we've got the iKamand going, the theory for attempt number 2 here is to reinstall our slow roller with everything burning as it is. So I'll just go ahead. Oh, that's throwing some heat. That's why these gloves are handy, some high heat gloves. Install the top of the slow roller base and put our grid back in and see if we can keep our little flame lit. All right, back in we go. Get our probe. I feel better about attempt 2 already. Let's close this back up. And I'm gonna start with the dome in the wide open position so I don't accidentally extinguish the fire before we get a chance to build some temperature. And I'm gonna slowly start working this to a more closed position. Okay, so attempt 2 started off a little bit better than attempt number 1. We did get up to temperature, but once we got up to temperature and wanted to start restricting the airflow, the fan went down from 100%. Our open burning pellets went into smoldering pellets, and they're not reigniting. Even now the fan is trying to stoke those embers and get an open burn. It's not working. So what I'm gonna do is try removing even more pellets and really ignite them this time. So what am I gonna do a little different? Well, we're gonna bring in the big boys. Mostly just because that's really fun to do. But I also think we'll get those pellets really, really ignited. So attempt number 3, last try. I'm out of any other ideas on how to keep this burning. I think if we were just to let it go maximum airflow, we could get some fire. So maybe if we do an attempt for it, it'll just be to leave it open and burning and just see what temperature we get output BTU from pellets as our fuel. But so far, low and slow is not working without a burn pot and an auger feeding just the right amount of pellets in. So clearly Kamado Joe knows more about what it takes to get pellets to work inside a Kamado Joe than I do, but hey, we'll try one more time. Okay, let's once again, go ahead, remove probe, our divide and conquer. One thing this is working really well for is we had a mosquito problem, they would be gone, as are the neighbors. Oh, a lot of smoke. All right, what do we got going on down here? You can see, I don't know if the camera's picking up, a little bit better. We did get, you know, some fire going in that center area. I can see those pellets ashing up, which is what we wanted, but the minute that the fire went out, we just went right back to smoldering. So again, I'll try clearing even more out this time and really get them going with the grill gun. Okay, so clearly the grill gun knows how to get pellets going. And you know what? This time I actually think I'm going to try it without the iKamand, because I think what it does really well at with charcoal, which will keep going a little bit longer, is it's designed to close the door and then reignite those coals with the fan, and it works brilliantly on charcoal. I just think the pellets, they produce so much smoke and they don't really have any residual burn strength to them. So the minute that the flame goes out, it's kind of out and doesn't come back. So maybe to help prevent that, what I'll try and do is just close the vents enough that prevents it from going out completely, and see if we can't regulate our temperature a little bit manually with the dials now that we've got this ignited. So first thing I'm going to do is just unplug the iKamand and remove that from the base. And I'm going to leave the bottom vent all the way open. And then I'm going to get our divide and conquer racks over here. And let's try this time with our plates. Go ahead and install the X accessory ring. Put in a plate. Maybe flip those and burn off some of the leftover food. Okay. Add some grids and see if we can keep this fire going for our third attempt. Let's close that up. I'm going to leave the vent open for now and just see what temperature we sort of stabilize at with the bottom vent open as well as the control tower top vent open. Okay, so I left this for about 90 minutes or so, and when I looked out the window and I just saw again these huge clouds of smoke, I thought honestly for this experiment it was time to throw in the towel. And so I thought maybe it was time to throw in the towel until I took a look at our temperature gauge and realized we've actually been holding 300 degrees the entire time. So despite the amount of smoke that we have going on, we actually are holding a temperature. So that must mean something good is going on inside of our Kamado Joe. Let's open it up and figure out if we can see where the burn direction is going, and if we're actually maintaining some of those embers and would be able to hold this temperature a little bit longer. So while we're no longer in epic fail from an experiment, most likely still solidly a fail, but I think we avoided complete epic fail. Let's get a closer look inside and see what's going on. All right, let's take a look. Definitely not missing out on any smoke. There's a lot of smoke. They're peachwood pellets, by the way, which in small doses have a really nice aroma and are good, mild smoke. Oh, I like what I see in here. Look at this. Look at that. So not only are our plates and grids hot, the minute that we open this up, we have a fire still going. So we've been able to maintain those embers and a bit of a clean burn, much to my surprise. And this is able to put off enough BTU to hold about 300 degrees. Let me just get you a little bit closer so you can see what I'm seeing. So it looks like we've got two small fires going, one here at the front, as well as a good coal bed at the back. And as the pellets turn white and ash over and extinguish, it looks like we've got a bit of a dead center area in the center now. Okay, so like I said, we avoided epic fail territory. We actually were able, with our bottom vent open and our control tower top vent on the open position, the most open closed position instead of swung open like how I have it now, we were able to maintain about 300 degrees Fahrenheit for about 90 minutes. So I'm pleasantly surprised with how that went. So now what I want to see, mostly since we've got a couple unused pellets left in there, what sort of BTU potential can we get out of those pellets? So I've swung the control tower top open to its maximum air position, removed our heat deflector plates, as well as continuing with our bottom draft door all the way open, just to see what sort of temperature reading we could get if these pellets could provide enough BTU for searing a steak or something like that. So I'm just going to give this a couple more minutes with max airflow and see what the temperature can get up to. Okay, so much to my surprise, these pellets packed a punch. So I saw just about 900 degrees for about 20 minutes or so before we extinguished our BTU potential and we started to settle back down. So this is really interesting to me because one of the biggest complaints about a pellet grill is normally it can only reach temperatures of around 500 degrees Fahrenheit, which despite the marketing material is not enough to get a good sear. Sure, you can do little tricks and hacks and try and remove all the internal components and put some grill grates right over the box and get some lines. But for me, it doesn't do anything like the type of sear that you get over live charcoal. But this proves it's not the pellet that's the problem, it's more maybe the style of the grill. And so this is why I'm excited to actually get our hands on a Kamado Joe, Pellet Joe when it's broadly available, as one of its claims is it's able to reach a much higher searing potential. And I believe it now, using pellets inside of our Kamado Joe Classic. The fuel source itself is not the barrier here. It's, are you able to retain that heat and reach even higher temperatures? And I think today's experiment in some senses gives hope for a sear from a pellet style grill just yet. So what did we learn today? Can I recreate the Pellet Joe using a Kamado Joe that I already have? Nope, no dice, that didn't work. If we get to a little bit higher temperature, like 300 degrees Fahrenheit, can I use a different fuel than charcoal? I'm gonna go ahead and call that one yes, yes you can. We held 300 degrees for 90 minutes, no problem. And then sort of the third part, can we reach searing temperature with pellets as our fuel source? And this one is hands down, absolutely yes. So anyways, I really hope you enjoyed today's video. It was a lot of fun, a little unorthodox. But if you liked the video, please go ahead and smash that like button, let YouTube know, as well as subscribe and turn on the bell to catch future videos. For the fall season, I'll be going back to a 2-video format weekly. Tuesday is going to try and focus more on recipes and cooks and how I set up for that on a Kamado Joe. And then on Thursday, we'll do some things like this, some experiments, some head-to-heads, some grill equipment and accessories that I use most often, and I think it'd be worth sharing with you. Anyways, until next time, I'm James from Dad BBQ, signing off.